Hey everyone, I hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter Rise or Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak in whichever platform you're choosing to play it on. Today I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion topic regarding Monster Hunter 6 and whether Capcom should go ahead and keep a lot of the things that they are of course going to eventually reveal under the lid, or if in general they should just kind of do what they have done in the past and be relatively open-ended with providing hunters all the details we need to know ahead of the game's launch. This is all being kind of like suggested from an article that I recently read on Game Rant. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below, where they simply asked the question: Monster Hunter Rise successors should keep its cards close to the chest. Monster Hunter games always promise long adventures with tough monsters, so previews before the launch shouldn't give away the mysteries. Now, typically, this is a highly contentious type of debate where a lot of people don't want to hear anything about a game heading into its launch period. We can see something along the lines of like with Tears of the Kingdom, for example, where not a lot of information regarding the actual story or the plot of the game has been revealed. Yes, we know that they are kind of like repurposing the old map from the first game, adding and giving you tons of new tools to be able to do things with the map and kind of like quote unquote break it. But when it comes to the story, we have no concept of what the hell is going on. There's a lot of theory crafting videos out there for, Zelda fanatics to kind of dive and delve deep on. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what the story or the plot ultimately revolves around. And that is good to a certain degree. Although a lot of people certainly want to see more story content and provided information by Nintendo, simply they don't seem to care. They just want people to be able to buy the game and discover stuff on their own. Capcom, on the other hand, when it comes to Monster Hunter, has been a little bit different. Now, this is a channel that I personally grew out of the base of covering leaks. So I would be a massive hypocrite if I sat here and I said that Capcom should now all of a sudden stop giving us any sort of information and we should just buy the game on day one, have no concept of what to expect, and we should all be happy. That would be a complete hypocrite if I said that. Although I certainly understand the appeal of it, as someone like myself, I want to know a lot of the things ahead of time. For me personally, the story of Monster Hunter doesn't really matter to me all that much, but certainly I know it does to some people. What I want to know is about the monsters roster, some of the move changes, some of the new weapons, and that is a little bit on what this article touches upon. So huge shout out to Devin Ellis for basically providing some of the thought-provoking ideas here that we are going to be going over today. Once again, link in the description below for the Game Rant article. It reads as follows: after Monster Hunter Rise, the next game in the series would be wise not to reveal many of its secrets too soon. The Monster Hunter series specializes in developing creative ideas for its monsters, as well as equipment that can be crafted for their parts, and Monster Hunter Rise continues the proud tradition, although the gameplay loop is familiar with players hunting and catching various threatening monsters. There is always something new or exciting waiting to be explored or discovered. Promotional material should respect that. Monster Hunter series has some of Capcom's biggest adventures, and the Monster Hunter Rise offers an impressive world and that it faithfully continues this tradition. It gives the players several locations to explore, popularized with bizarre and powerful monsters to fight, and just like past games, slaying and capturing monster rewards the players with parts that can be used to craft improved weapons and armor. This system leads to Monster Hunter games being wildly customizables, with the players listing the gear growing as they keep on a successful hunt. That combined it with exciting new combat makes Monster Hunter a reliable source of fun. And this is pretty expected stuff, nothing really surprising there. The gameplay loop is something that certainly carries a lot of people, myself included. I don't particularly care. I need to be driven in to understand why the monsters are exploring a new area of a undisclosed map that we haven't seen before, or why the people feel threatened by big, massive ass dinosaur looking creatures. Of course the people are threatened. Of course you need to be a hunter and go take them down and kill them for whatever reason. That's all well and good. I'm more interested, of course, in the gameplay aspect, not necessarily the story, but of course we're not just talking about me here. They continue: previews need to reveal just enough information to draw players' attention, so not revealing many features for upcoming Monster Hunter games in common sense. However, Monster Hunter is a series where a lot of things need to be kept under the wraps before they're released for different reasons. While most games want to keep their plot secrets, Monster Hunter benefits from keeping its monsters roster largely hidden until release. We're going to circle back to this. The monsters are the most prominent part of the game, so they shouldn't be spoiled too early. In addition to the single reason for making sure that there's something new to see in the game, Monster Hunter should avoid giving too much away as gameplay benefits. Monster Hunter games are long, and they're all about exploring during expeditions. Discovering new things is important, and fighting the monsters. And if the monsters are already known before the game comes out, the thrill of seeing something unique roaming the land would be gone. A big part of what makes Monster Hunter interesting is when new monsters make their debut and the player has to prepare for them. So first and foremost, like I said at the top of the video, I would be a massive hypocrite if I didn't say we need to know what every monster available in the game is before the game actually launches, because of course someone will data mine the demo, someone will data mine or something, some data will leak, and of course we'll know everything that's going to come ahead of time. Someone is eventually going to talk about it. Chances are I will be one of the channels covering it, and that's not going to stop going forward. So therefore, of course, I would be a hypocrite if I said we don't need to know the entire roster of the monsters. You can certainly choose to opt in to follow channels like mine, or follow other channels that will be talking about leaks, or other channels that are way bigger than mine, and they do quote-unquote pseudo leaks, as they pretend that they don't actually know what the full roster of the game is, and then they just put out these quote-unquote wish lists of what monsters they actually want to see in the game. And at the end of the day, yes, they all read all the leaks, we've all read them, we all know what's coming, but they put out these quote-unquote wish lists that at the end of the day, we know what the actual full list of the monsters are. So, you know, there's multiple ways to go about it, you know, and how to do that. And you're still getting that information spoiled, because that is the day and age that we live in. Information flows freely and no one can really stop that. So I'm never going to fight or push against the notion that the plot needs to be kept a secret when it comes to whatever monsters we have there. With that said, though, the story elements of the game can certainly be teased but not be fully revealed. That is kind of like I spoke about at the top of the video with Zelda. They are doing an amazing job just not telling you anything about the story, and whether you like the story or not, or whether you think Zelda games have a good story or not, that's completely irrelevant. The point is, playing that game, chances are, unless you read plenty of spoilery type reviews, you're not going to have any sort of concept of what the story will be for Tears of the Kingdom. And that is something that I kind of expect Capcom to delve a little bit deeper on as we get into more, let's say, story heavy Monster Hunter games, which is something that players do want to see. Monster Hunter World, while the story might not have been great, they certainly put in a lot of effort in actually making that story cohesive and actually grow as you are continuing to play the game. Whether you were a fan of it or not, whether Iceborne actually lived up to the original story of World, that is a separate conversation on its own, but they certainly put in the work to be able to have a massive story and do something big. And I expect Monster Hunter 6, Gen 6, Monster Hunter World 2, Monster Hunter Paradise, whatever they call it, I expect that to continue in that vein. At the same time, though, I don't think you can hide a lot of the new abilities. Maybe if they're actually going to add a brand new weapon, I don't think they can add new gameplay mechanics. Those are things you actually need to feature in trailers. Those are things that, like the wire bug, the silk bind attacks, those are the things that when we saw them in Rise, people got very excited because they could imagine the possibilities for each and every single one of the weapons. Certainly, once you get your hands on a demo, you can actually test that out all to yourself and be able to have a better aspect as to what it is that they're offering. But you cannot hide abilities or features or new improvements. Imagine if in the original reveal trailer for Rise, they never showed you a Palamute. That would have been really weird, since the Palamutes are massive in Rise and Sunbreak. You know, so I think you cannot hide many aspects like verticality or the movement or things of that nature. It's just like, you know, like the ghillie suits, for example, like the capes that you wore in World, those things were shown off pretty early on in trailers. You cannot just hide them. I think they had like a hunter walking around an Anjanath very early on, kind of like with the, you know, translucent suit. You can't necessarily be seen by the Anjanath. And, you know, in World, that was a massive thing. You just kind of had to, you know, do that. It was just, you know, there was just a feature, a part of the game that you couldn't escape. So imagine if they did that for Rise, but all of a sudden they don't show you what a Palamute is or what a Wirebug is. You know, that just wouldn't necessarily make sense. So I think abilities, monsters, yes. Story, certainly you don't need to spoil that. You know, you don't need to really get into that, and the trailers shouldn't delve too deeper on that. In the last section of the article, they mentioned that, of course, Monster Hunter advertisers still need to show enough to get the players invested. A good way to do this would be using footage that features series mainstays such as Monster Hunter's iconic flying beast Rathalos and the brutish Diablo. Not only would fans expect them to be in the game, but they have striking designs that would be enticing to new players. When it comes to new monsters, only show a couple that would be shown off to be assured players won't be recycled, that it won't just recycle all content, with entry flagship monsters taking the center stage. I'm going to circle back to that because I literally made a video about this maybe like 2 weeks ago. Once the successor to Monster Hunter Rise is prepared to release, promotional materials will need to show restraint. Monster Hunter has shown the ability to do this successfully, such as with Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak's followers being a spotlight in previews. This approach gives players a hint of what to expect while leaving the bulk of the game a mystery. When the next game comes out, it needs to repeat the cycle by showing off action rather than lavishing attention on new monsters. Now, I want to circle back to, of course, showing off, monsters that have had a mainstay in the franchise, was showing off a handful of new monsters. And that is literally what I spoke about 2 weeks ago when I spoke about flagship monsters in previous Monster Hunter games need to, by any means necessary, need to be included in every game going forward. That includes all of them. That also includes the ones for Frontiers, because a lot of people who played Frontiers know how good those monsters were. So now that we have seen Frontiers monsters start to trickle their way into mainline Monster Hunter games, we should be able to see that Monster Hunter 6, World 2, Paradise, whatever they call it, should have more of those Frontiers monsters, and more specifically the flagship ones, the ones that were on the box cover. And that is the same thing can apply for Monster Hunter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Rise and Sunbreak and all of that. That includes World as well. So, Nargacuga should be coming back. There's no reason why this monster isn't in Rise, isn't in Sunbreak. There's just no reason for any of that. That means also Laggy needs to come back. Of course, they need to make that happen. But flagships are there for a reason. They are the monster that they decided to showcase a game on, and those monsters are the most recognizable by fans. At the same time, of course, the first monster that we should be able to see could probably be a Rathalos, but I would actually suggest and hope that we actually end up seeing maybe 2 to 3 cherry-picked new monsters. New monsters usually end up being anywhere from 10 to 12 in the base game, and then the expansions add a couple more. So maybe we can actually end up seeing a first couple of clips of a new monster. They don't tease them, they don't show them until much later, and then they start showing us all the good ones, the Nargacugas, the Laggies, Nargigantes, of course the Malzenos, Magnamalos, whatever, the Diablos, maybe a Rathian, stuff like that we have seen in the past. A Kushala D'Or, of course, elders have to be there to some degree. Just stuff that we know is going to be there, stuff that fans will easily recognize. So we know, yes, the old ones are still coming back. Yes, there are some new ones. And yes, this is going to be a goddamn good experience. So I certainly agree with some of the points that this article raises. I don't necessarily agree with keeping the entire roster hidden, because at the end of the day, yes, it will be data mined. Yes, there will be leaks. People will still complain. I still have people in the comments occasionally telling me that I shouldn't be putting stuff in the thumbnail. I'm sorry. That's just not the way YouTube works. So that's not going to change. And I'm not the only one channel doing it. So go complain to everyone else who also does that. But that's not a personal attack. I don't take that as that. It's just the way YouTube is. That's just the nature of how video creation is in 2023. We need to kind of accept that. You don't have to follow the channel, you don't have to watch the videos, but you also need to understand that other people are putting that information out there, and it is what it is. You can choose to opt in to watch it or not. That is just kind of like the nature of how things are at this day and age, and information dissemination, and that is actually how it works. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. Certainly enjoyed this article from Game Rant. Once again, huge shout out to Devin Ellis, a friend, for putting out this article. Link in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And I certainly want to hear your comments on the bottom if you want to see more information or less information when we get to around Tokyo Game Show later this year. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.